This is A Rude Awakening. I'm Sabrina Jacobs. On today's show, climate leader and All We Can Save co-editor Dr. Katharine K. Wilkinson will be with us for the hour discussing her latest poignant publication entitled Climate Wayfinding, Healing Ourselves and the Planet We Call Home, out on May 5th. But first, the news.
I'm Max Pringle with these headlines. President Trump and Iran's foreign minister say the Strait of Hormuz is now fully open to commercial vessels. In a social media post today, Trump said Iran announced that the strait is open and ready for full passage, in his words. Earlier, Trump told reporters at the White House that the two countries were close to an agreement.
Iran wants to make a deal, and we're dealing very nicely with them. We've got to have no nuclear weapons. If we do, that's a big factor. And they're willing to do things today that they weren't willing to do 2 months ago.
Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi posted on X that the passage for all commercial vessels through the straits is completely open in line with the ceasefire in Lebanon. He said it would stay open for the remainder of the ceasefire. It was not immediately clear what that meant for the U.S. blockade of the strait. It's day one of a ceasefire between the governments of Israel and Lebanon. President Trump said the leaders of the two countries could come to Washington to meet in the next few weeks, as the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah says it won't abide by the agreement. Nick Harper has more.
Donald Trump seems very bullish about the next few weeks, suggesting that the president of Lebanon and the Israeli prime minister could be heading to the White House to agree a long-term ceasefire and deal at some point, he said, in the next week or two. This 10-day ceasefire, of course, needs to last, and it's not clear if Hezbollah in Lebanon will abide by it. But if the ceasefire stays in place and if Israel and Lebanon are able to do a deal, it could smooth the way for a deal between the US and Iran. The Iranians wanted Israel to stop its bombardment of southern Lebanon, and the White House has worked hard over the last few days to achieve that ceasefire. Meaning now Donald Trump is optimistic, suggesting he could even travel to Pakistan in the coming days, potentially for a photo opportunity and the signing of a deal with Iran. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
The leaders of the United Kingdom and France are holding an international summit to push forward efforts to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It's the vital oil route affected by the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. The coalition, excluding the U.S., aims to provide security for shipping once the conflict ends. French President Emmanuel Macron has said the mission will be strictly defensive. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has accused Iran of holding the world's economy to ransom. Military planning meetings have been held, but experts say the coalition's role may be limited. The list of countries involved remains undisclosed, with some European leaders expected to attend today's summit in person and others dialing in remotely. Pope Leo XIV continued his tour of Africa today with a stop in Cameroon. The pontiff drew crowds of thousands from across the country to attend a mass that he held there. Lisa Dwyer reports.
Thousands of people turned out Friday to see Pope Leo, who was celebrating a big mass in Cameroon's port city of Douala. Some spent the night on the ground battling mosquitoes to be in place for the late morning mass. One of the Christian faithful, Alex Nazumo, using a pair of crutches and walking with great difficulty.
Non, parce que si je suis venu, c'est pas ma propre volonté.
Says, if I came here, it's not just by my own will. I wanted to offer this effort to the Pope to show him that what he is doing and what he wants to accomplish should truly come to life. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The Associated Press is reporting that some new U.S. immigration and customs enforcement officers started working before passing background checks and had problems in their past. ICE announced in January that it completed an unprecedented hiring spree adding 12,000 officers and agents to double its force. Their mission is to help carry out President Trump's mass deportation campaign, but the speed with which they were brought onto the payroll, to jobs considered important for national security, has raised alarm. The Associated Press found one new ICE hire had filed for bankruptcy twice and worked for 6 law enforcement agencies in 3 years. Another was accused of lying in a police report to justify a felony charge against an innocent woman. A third quit his only prior policing job after just 3 weeks. Meanwhile, federal officials have announced that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Acting Director Todd Lyons, a key player in President Trump's mass deportation agenda, will resign at the end of May. Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen described Lyons as a great leader of ICE. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson described Lyons in a post on social media as an American patriot who, quote, made our country safer. Major storms continue to pound the Midwest today, bringing heavy rain, hail, and flooding to the Great Lakes region and beyond. One man was killed by lightning in Wisconsin. Donna Warder has more.
Wisconsin's Department of Natural Resources has been watching levees around the city of Portage, where rainfall swelled waters to nearly 19 feet on Wednesday. This woman lives near the river.
We just don't need no more rain.
Record rainfall in the state flooded streets and trapped drivers. In Madison, 2 trees fell onto Jeremy DeFall's home.
I was a little frightened, a little bit frightened. And when I look outside, it was worse than I ever seen.
In Michigan, powerful storms overnight damaged 2 ice arenas and flooded streets. Some public school buildings sustained structural damage in Ann Arbor. The National Weather Service says the storm that brought hail and tornadoes was on its way toward Upper Pennsylvania and the Buffalo, New York area. All audio courtesy of WKOW. I'm Donna Warder.
The House has extended a controversial surveillance program used by spy agencies until April 30th. President Trump had pushed for a longer extension. Republican leaders late Thursday had rushed out last-minute changes and called lawmakers back for a middle-of-the-night vote. Partly cloudy today in the San Francisco Bay Area, highs in the 70s, lows tonight in the 40s. In the Central Valley, mostly sunny today, highs in the 70s, lows tonight in the 50s. Those are the headlines. I'm Max Pringle on KPFA.
Welcome back. We are back. This is A Rude Awakening. I'm Sabrina Jacobs. For those on the front lines of climate work, organizers, nonprofit staff, policy advocates, sustainability teams, climate justice leaders, the crisis is not abstract. It is daily, relentless, and often exhausting. In Climate Wayfinding, Healing Ourselves and the Planet We Call Home, climate leader and All We Can Save co-editor, Dr. Katharine K. Wilkinson offers a guide not for persuading skeptics, but for sustaining the people trying to sustain the planet. After decades in the trenches with other climate leaders, Dr. Wilkinson observed a common thread. The greatest barrier to sustained action was not lack of knowledge or solutions, but emotional depletion. Activists don't need more data. They need stamina, integration, soul. And here to talk about her new book, once again, entitled Climate Wayfinding, Healing Ourselves and the Planet We Call Home, is Dr. Katharine Wilkinson. Dr. Katharine Wilkinson, welcome to A Rude Awakening. It is an absolute honor to have you here.
Sabrina, thank you so much for having me on, and I hope you'll just call me Katharine.
All right, Dr. K.
Oh, that is what my dad called me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was a sports journalist and a big Dr. J fan. So being Dr. K was like a close second and a very, high praise.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. I'm feeling the love. I feel the love. That is
totally
wonderful. Wonderful. So for all of you out there who don't know who Dr. K or Dr. Katharine Wilkinson is, she is a human on this earth, just like you and
true.
me. And she's also a writer, a teacher, and a creator who has inspired hundreds of thousands of climate journeys through transformational projects that shift our cultural narratives about what's possible and nurture engagement in renewing our world. Dr. Wilkinson's publications include the best-selling anthology, All We Can Save, the podcast, A Matter of Degrees, and the New York Times bestseller, Drawdown. Dr. Wilkinson co founded and leads the All We Can project, where she shaped the much beloved programs All We Can Save Circles and Climate Wayfinding. And she holds a PhD in Geography and Environment from the University of Oxford, where she was a Rhodes Scholar, right on, and a BA in Religion from Sewanee, the University of the South. And guess what, folks? In 2019, Time magazine named her one of 15 women who will save the world. Wow.
Thank heavens there are like millions more. Thank heavens.
Right on. Well, we're all here. We're going to share the burden, my friend. We're going to share
Truly.
the burden. We all have to. Wow. So this book comes out on the 5th of May, but definitely want to hit folks with this insane schedule. You're going to be out here in the Bay Area for about a week in mid-April. So middle of next month, I think it's the 19th, you're going to be in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, we're going to be bebopping around. It's San Francisco Climate Week. So we'll be at Manny's, at the Commonwealth Club in Santa Cruz. We'll be at the Exploratorium. All of it is on our website, which is climatewayfinding.earth.
All right. Climatewayfinding.earth, climatewayfinding.earth. So let's get into it. Let's get into it, Dr. K. Now, let's talk about, we're going to take it back just a little bit to All We Can Save. After amplifying so many voices in All We Can Save, why did this moment right now, call for a book not just about climate solutions, but about strengthening our inner and relational capacity to sustain them?
So there's a line that I wrote in All We Can Save, Sabrina, that the climate crisis is a leadership crisis, right? We have lots of people in positions of power with decision-making authority that are not steering us to the world we all want to live in. There are those who are, and we need many, many more people to join the leaderful climate community that is out there and to have the gusto to do this work, to stay in this work for the long haul, because unfortunately, that's what we know is ahead, right? This is in many ways the work of our lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is not just a book that talks to you. I've certainly written and edited some of those kinds of books. This is a book, obviously, that you can read, but it is really a book that walks with you, that goes through a journey of looking inward with care, looking outward with curiosity, and looking forward with courage. The navigational capacities that I think are so essential in this time where our maps are increasingly coming up short, right? And we are navigating so much change related to our planet, related to democracy, related to technology. We have to better equip ourselves with a compass, right? For making our way and continuing to find footholds of meaningful action and contribution.
It's definitely, and just feeling more supported. It seems to
Totally.
Yeah, because there's a lot of folks that listen to KPFA that they are dyed-in-the-wool activists. They're second, third, maybe even fourth generation activists. And to all those folks that are listening to this episode of A Rude Awakening, I think this book is definitely going to speak to you, dear listener. Climate Wayfinding. I think it's going to help sustain us as activists, as trying to put that positive foot forward to promote change. And now, so in the book, again, Climate Wayfinding, Healing Ourselves and the Planet We Call Home, you mentioned that Climate Wayfinding began as a program. What is that program and how did it shape the book?
It did start as a program. This has been kind of the flagship learning and, for lack of a better word, leadership development. So wonky, but that's the term we often use. Program of the All We Can Save Project, which is the nonprofit that I lead that grew out of that book. And it's a program that we have run with everything from those burned out, grizzled climate veterans to what you might call kind of the newly curious or the concerned, but not yet actively engaged, and everybody in between. And all of us benefit from that kind of structure and support and generous exploration of the roles that we play and can play and the visions that we hold and can move towards. We have trained educators across the US and Canada who are running this program on college and university campuses, in communities. And what we see again and again is that we are so capable of giving each other what we need. Like, there are a lot of climate solutions that are rocket science, sometimes literally rocket science.
Mhm.
The human infrastructure of change doesn't have to be that complicated. It is something that any of us can cultivate wherever we are in our communities with our people. But it takes some intention, right? And that's what this program has done. And the program, from a small nonprofit team, even with 100 trained facilitators, we were barely beginning to scratch the itch that people are feeling, the need for this program. So we wanted to bring it into life as a thing with pages so that anyone with a library card and internet access can take this journey of climate wayfinding.
Mhm.
And so it's not just chapters with essays and poetry and stories that's in this book, but it's also journal prompts and creative mapping exercises and reading group agendas so that people can take a journey through the experience of climate wayfinding together.
Indeed, indeed. And you have this facilitator training model, yeah, which began in higher education. You've trained 90 educators from more than 75 schools across the United States and Canada. And this year, you're looking to train at least 100 more.
We are.
Wow, including
Yeah.
facilitators from cultural institutions, faith-based programs. Wow, this is something to look forward to. So all those educators out there that are listening to the sound of my voice,
Yes.
sound of
Yes.
Dr. Katharine Wilkinson, you gotta check this out. If you are so inclined, climate wayfinding, healing ourselves and the planet we call home. That is exceptional. That is absolutely exceptional. That means that it's it's coming from a subjective space,
Mm.
this book, but it's also steeped in structure,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
solution based with an understanding of, hey, we're all human. We understand that the person reading this is human and is going to be human.
Is going to be human. I know. Couldn't we just be a little more human in all of this in the best possible ways?
Mhm.
And to your point, Sabrina, it was really important to me, to release a book like this into the world is, I think there's real responsibility that comes with that. And so it's important to me that it has grown out of this very heartful and soulful program, but also very rigorous approach that we've taken at the project
Mm.
of what are people experiencing through the journey of this program, quantitatively, qualitatively. We've had really robust review and feedback cycles to continue honing it over the last 4 years. So what's made its way into the book is not just something that, like, I sat down and cooked up and I'm like, yeah, I think that'll help. No, we know it is something that has been transformational for people, both students and folks who are just beginning to find their way professionally, and as adults in the world, all the way through to people who are recent retirees and they're thinking about what's my third act, right? How can I use my time to benefit communities and the planet now that I'm in retirement, and again, everything in between. So just know that if you're someone who is like, yeah, but can this book really help? I'm a recovering social scientist, and so some of that nerdy academic side of me is definitely present in how this work is developed.
Yeah, and it's very important. It's all very important. But what gets lost in the sauce to me is that, just like the book is talking about it, that the data driven side that needs to
Mm,
be there, but it's just the steady, consistent incorporation of healing, of
yeah,
love, again, the subjective side of, that downtime between protests, that
yeah,
downtime in between, letter writing sessions, that downtime in
yes,
between um, getting the paint out to
mm,
paint a poster or whatever it is. We all have that downtime, in
yeah,
between light and dark, and we have to have that downtime. That is our healing time. That is our moment to reconnect with self.
totally.
Reconnect with those close to us. Just be and just
And
be.
just be. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this is when we look at social movements through history,
Mm.
right? We
Right.
think about their most visible moments, right? We think about the marches from Selma to Montgomery. We think about folks camped out in Zuccotti Park for weeks, right? We think about these big, visible, charged up moments of social change. But all successful social movements have this quieter, often invisible infrastructure to them as well, right? I live in Atlanta, Georgia, where, there would have been no civil rights movement without the Black church. There
Mhm.
could not have been abolitionist organizing without Quaker meeting houses. We wouldn't have had feminism without consciousness raising sessions happening in people's living rooms and at their kitchen tables, right? Long before demands reached legislatures.
Mhm.
And so this is also, I think it's what we need humanly. And it is also good social change strategy to be investing in the quieter side of social change, the the tender in some cases, right? The tender side of social change,
Mhm.
as well as the big, splashy, make it happen side of social change. We need both.
Yeah, yeah, those necessary conversations between friends over coffee.
Yeah, so many good things happen there. I mean, the All We Can Save anthology, Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson and I were at a conference together, annoyed because there were entirely too few women holding microphones.
Mm.
And we went on a rage hike, and I was like, I've had this idea kicking around of this anthology. She was like, I'm in. It's these little conversations that can end up
Right.
growing into to really meaningful things. And
Mhm.
we discount them, right? Because we think, well, things are urgent and we've got to get moving, and that is true. And I think we shortchange ourselves when we don't make that time and space for connection and reflection and just being, as you said, Sabrina.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I've met all kinds of folks doing this work for this station, and it has been a very unique experience, right? You're not going to I don't think you're going to meet too many folks like I've met working at a CNN or something like that, or at CBS radio, whatever, But I mean, just being very steeped in activism and learning about how important it is to do that work. But I've, I think this is probably the second book, maybe the third book here, maybe the second or third person that I've spoken to on air about that tender side, about
Mm,
that downside.
yeah.
It's just, it's always this constant go, go, go. And it's all about the struggle and rah, rah, rah. And it's like, okay, yeah, okay, it's about the struggle, but what about you?
Yeah.
And
We
I think,
can't sustain that day in and
yeah,
day out.
exactly. And knowing that it's okay to say, hey, what about me? And knowing
Right.
that it's okay to say, hey, I need downtime. We need downtime. Let's take this time to just break bread and connect,
Yeah.
have conversation that isn't about the next protest. You
Right.
know,
And God forbid have some joy in any of it.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Let's have a good laugh. Let's have
Yeah.
a good laugh. My goodness. But back to this amazing seminal piece, climate wayfinding. Now, Dr. K, you argue that limiting factors for climate progress are not just technology or policy, they are emotional,
Mm,
cultural, and
mm,
communal. I think we just talked about that. What
yeah.
convinced you that this is where the real bottleneck lies? Like what brought
Mm,
you to that moment? Is I've had them, we've had them. I think all of us have had them, right? Any of
yeah.
us that have been on the front lines of any protest, we've had that downtime, and it's like, oh, you're kind of scrambled, and you're like,
Mm,
what was that downtime moment for you where you
mm.
noticed that, hey, there was this bottleneck, and are we at a cultural turning point from solutions to stamina? Or is it going to have to be? I feel like it's going to have to be a combination of both solution and
Yeah,
stamina, right? But go ahead.
totally.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I spent a number of years at Project Drawdown, first working on the Drawdown book and then a second publication, the Drawdown Review, and bringing to life what is in many ways this narrative of possibility rooted in solutions that are not someday, maybe, if we're lucky, kinds of things, but solutions that are already in hand. They're already working. They're here. They're now. And I kept having this kind of like, okay, well, if the availability of solutions is not by and large the challenge, caveat, there are some, what we call hard to decarbonize sectors where we still don't have good solutions, but the toolbox is really full to the point of overflowing. And also, the majority of people are awake. They're concerned. They want to see action. But we have this huge gap between the concern that we have, the care that we have, and the action that's happening in the world. There are entirely too few people picking up those solutions and moving them forward. And to me, there's possibility still written into the science, right? We know that we still have opportunities to chart toward better outcomes, not perfect, not a return to planet past, but better is very much still available to us. But the us has to grow, the we has to grow. We have to get stronger individually, we have to get stronger in terms of our sheer numbers because this work has to happen everywhere, in every organization, in every community, in every place. We are all needed. And I really do believe the central idea of this book and really of my work in recent years that each of us is a node of possibility for healing the climate crisis. And that is true whoever we are and whatever we've got to give.
Mhm. Oh my gosh.
Mm,
Absolutely, we're all a part of it. Absolutely, we're all a part of it, especially now. And it's just it's not getting any easier. It's not getting any better, but we can make it better. Right?
yeah.
It's like the overwhelming forecast is, not good. Chance of rain, and it's probably going to be acid rain, right? But nobody wants that. But yeah, oh my gosh, this is such a breath of fresh air.
Mm,
And there is the emotional side of it again.
yeah.
Just going back to that emotional side of it and building up, building up our reserves and building up what we need. But there's also talk to us about how you put together the balance between echo anxiety and creating that stamina. And I don't know if it's a balance or more, I guess it's more about transforming that echo anxiety or eco anxiety, tomato, tomato, into that stamina. And I don't want to give too much away about the book, but because that's what the book is about that process, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But let me give you a more direct question. The book encourages readers on a personal journey, right? And that personal journey is about the transformation of eco anxiety or eco anxiety into stamina. But you put it under these three headings: inward, outward, and forward. So why those three? What breaks down to how do you break that down? And God forbid, what if we skip one? Because I mean, they're all intertwined: inward, outward, forward, inward, outward, forward. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I think some of us are more inclined to one of those modalities than the other, right? And so we do, I think, have a tendency to gravitate toward like, ooh, I'm not really so interested in looking inward.
Yeah.
I'd much rather just look outward and stick with the nuts and bolts kind of stuff, or actually I'm really happy just sort of feeling the feels and not ever actually taking a step forward into action. And there's far too much let's race forward without having done the introspective and the outrospective work before we decide, yeah, that's the vision, that's the strategy. So they're an interplay, right? We have to have, in some ways, they're, I don't know, maybe a kaleidoscope, Sabrina, right? That we keep turning the lenses and we actually gain more clarity through that change and shift of perspective. And so many of us, right, whether it is anxiety, whether it is, in my experience, it has often been really deep grief. Some people are more in the rage space, right? Some people are just kind of flatlined. You name it. There's lots of heavy, distressing emotions that we feel about the mess that we're in, both climate related, democracy related, technology related. And those emotions may be hard to feel, but they are so important. There's a quote in the book from Audre Lorde that our feelings are our most genuine paths to knowledge. And I think they are also possibly our most generative paths to action if we are willing to work with them, to listen to them, to see what they have to say about our deepest motivations, the things we care about, and to let those difficult emotions begin to transmute into fuel, right? In ways that are productive, not in ways that, like, I think all of us can think of an example where we've interacted with someone who's, so charged up with rage about their particular issue that you're like, oh, I don't really want to be at this party, like, and I think that's also part of it, right? Is like, if we know we have this challenge of moving people from concern to contribution, you got to make it a party people want to come to, right? You got to have playlists, which are here in the book. You've got to have laughter. You've got to have joy. You've got to have camaraderie. You've got to have support. You've got to have a sense of, I care about you because you came with your probably broken open heart and you want to do something. And me too,
Right. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Oh, speaking to my heart. Speaking to my broken heart, I tell you, because it's yeah, it's just it can be such um a sterile activist environment out there. Especially here in the Bay Area. I mean, we are the home of activism, right?
Yes.
Well, we're
you wear it proudly.
Yes, yes, right, right. And it's a badge of honor, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, it's there's the successful movements are the ones that are, I think, are able to incorporate the way that you're breaking it down: inward, outward, forward, inward, outward, forward. So It takes me back to the book, uh, the beginning of it,
Mm.
the beginning of the book. Catherine, I mean, it's unusual for a climate book, or yeah, a climate book or an activist book,
Mm.
to begin with anecdotes of grief, of
Mm.
fear, longing, rather than stats and action and all the objective stuff, right? So,
Mm.
why start with the feelings? Why start with the feels?
Mm. Mm. I think it's where I had to start this book because it's where my own path in this began more than 25 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, I was a sophomore in high school and I spent a semester at this wild and wonderful experiential environmental school called the Outdoor Academy in Western North Carolina, which is an absolutely beautiful part of the world for folks who haven't been there. The Southern Appalachians, kind of wise old mountains, younger than the mountains in the West.
Uh,
But I had a series of experiences there that were really kind of waking up moments for me. One of them that was really visceral was hiking up through this gorgeous valley in Pisgah National Forest with a group of students and one of our teachers, and coming out onto a totally denuded ridgeside,
mm,
freshly clear cut. And I just had this moment of, yeah, of just kind of feeling hit by the gap between the way that we can do things and the way that we do things so
mhm,
often in this society. And I was struck also, I was 16 thinking like clear cuts are a problem in faraway places and
right.
not realizing that that was an issue right here in this ecosystem that I had totally fallen in love with.
Mhm.
And I had this hand-bound journal that I actually still have, and I wrote in it after this experience, I want to help the world be connected with the earth and change the way I live. And that didn't start from somebody rattling off a litany of facts. I mean, I had learned a lot in environmental studies and natural history and ecology, and I'd been reading Daniel Quinn's book, Ishmael, and Mary Oliver's poetry. So the information was there, but it was the emotional experience that was the fundamental orienting experience, right? That said, this is the way you're going to head in your life. And I think a lot of us have had that experience in some way, shape, or form. I've heard from so many people that it happened when they had a kid,
Mhm.
right? That we have some encounter that becomes, yeah, sort of an irrefutable compass arrow within us saying, this is the work you've got to do. But that sense of calling that arrived for me in that moment also arrived with so many questions, right? What would this mean for my life? What could I actually do that would be useful? Would any of it, in fact, help? Would any of it ease that ache that I was feeling? And those questions meet us at the crossroads, right? And we find ourselves saying aloud questions like, what can I do? Or is there hope? And I think we're often holding much bigger, deeper, wider wonderings about belonging and meaning and what it means to be alive on a planet that is changing because the systems that humans have created are changing it, right? Because the burning of fossil fuels is changing it. Um, these are questions that I think we just can't hold alone. With a planetary crisis, I think it's very similar to a personal crisis that you don't want to go it alone. You've got to go it together. Um,
Wow. Wow. Wow.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. I'm just sitting with the profundity of your words.
yeah. Why, thank you.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I've got Oh, we've got time. I'm going to ask you these last two questions.
Mm.
Try to squeeze in three. Again, folks, I'm speaking with Dr. Katharine Wilkinson. And Dr. Katharine Wilkinson is the author of Climate Wayfinding, Healing Ourselves and the Planet We Call Home. And she's also a teacher and a creator, and she's a human on this earth.
Mm.
And she has inspired hundreds of thousands of climate journeys through transformational projects that shift our cultural narratives about what's possible and nurture engagement in renewing our world. And she's also the author of the best-selling anthology, All We Can Save. And she's also part of the podcast, or the creator of the podcast, A Matter of Degrees, and the New York Times bestseller, Drawdown. Dr. Wilkinson co-founded and leads the All We Can project, where she shaped the much beloved program, All We Can Save Circles and Climate Wayfinding. She's got a PhD in geography and environment from the University of Oxford, where she was a Rhodes Scholar, and a bachelor's in religion. Okay, that's where it's coming from. It's that bachelor's in religion. So why?
Yep, you got me now.
Yeah, there it is. It's that theological.
I know. I like the places where we get to ask the big questions. I'm a sucker for that.
Well, where do we go when we die? But no, don't answer that. That's gonna be.
I hope we get to hang out with the mycelial network. That's what you hope for.
Exactly. Yes. The beautiful matrix, not the icky matrix.
Yes, critical distinction.
Yes, absolutely. So let me ask you a simple question. So critics may say, why care about a single tree? I mean, I guess there are people who would still ask that question at this late juncture. But how do you respond? How would you respond?
Man, it's a hard one to respond to.
Indeed.
Rationally.
Indeed.
Right? When I'm like, can you not feel the thing like deep in your being that says no? Right? That says this is this extraordinary form of life. I'm looking out my window right now at this gorgeous oak tree.
Yeah.
Like, how can you look at that and think that is not sacred?
Exactly.
Right? And we know that life moves in cycles, right?
Yes.
Nothing is forever. But we've got to land, I think, somewhere more in the middle between life taking and life giving.
There you go.
And so much, right, is like taking more space for humans, not enough, more. And it's just not tenable. We've outstripped 7 of 9 of the planetary boundaries, which are basically the life support systems of the planet.
Wow.
And no other species does this, right? We're this kind of young, immature, still learning, but really powerful species. And I think this is the great learning journey that we are on, to be truly a part of life force, which is this extraordinary 3.8 billion year inheritance that we've received. And it could also be our legacy, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's our legacy. Absolutely. I mean, there's nowhere to go.
I know. So maybe I would take that tree skeptic and just say, like, put your hands on this tree and just get quiet. Maybe the answer will come.
You wouldn't even have to say anything, just grab their hand and just be like, here.
Yeah. Here you go. Here you go.
Just walk away, don't say anything else. I mean, it's like anybody that's asking that question, it's, I don't know.
Totally. And we have all of these more than human mentors, right?
Right.
There's actually, if you'll indulge me, Sabrina, there's a poem in the chapter on surfacing solutions. Every chapter has a poem. I love poetry. This is a poem called Optimism by Jane Hirschfield, and Jane and I will actually be reading some poetry and excerpts from the book and chatting at Manny's on April 19th.
Yay.
But this poem, Optimism, it's short and it's very much on this topic. And she writes, more and more I have come to admire resilience, not the simple resistance of a pillow whose foam returns over and over to the same shape, but the sinuous tenacity of a tree. Finding the light newly blocked on one side, it turns in another. A blind intelligence, true, but out of such persistence arose turtles, rivers, mitochondria, figs, all this resinous, unretractable earth. Like that is the truth of this planet.
Yeah.
That is the truth of this planet.
Absolutely, it is. No
Yeah.
doubt. No doubt. Yeah, it, my goodness. I guess we have to accept that there are still people who are out there that would say that or ask that question. You know?
Yeah.
So what about the trees, or what about the, but I don't know.
Yeah. Or, you know, people in certain positions of power who say, hey, this will be great. At some point, it'll be waterfront property.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
I know.
And I
I
think
know.
that's the aspect of it that where this, of the book where, it's the transformative part. That transformative part, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the other part, or the segment where you're putting that foot forward to change hearts and minds.
Yeah.
That's hard. That is hard to
It's
do.
hard.
I mean, how, I just real quick, I mean, okay, inward, outward, forward, inward, outward, forward. But I mean, when you've got, you've got someone over here talking about waterfront property,
Yeah.
you've got, you've got so and so over here who's got 100,000 shares in IKEA, and they're,
Yeah.
they're looking,
I know.
I mean, these monocrop plantations. I mean, it's just,
I know. I know. And it is, to speak in wonky nonprofit speak, like what's the theory of change for all of that? Like the only theory of change, the only math, the only artistry that makes sense to me is that we have such a vast and vibrant upwelling of people who are committed to a future we can actually live in and want to hold it and shape it together. Like that's the only counter to the fossil fuel industry, to aspects, I think, of the tech industry that are just running roughshod now. Um, it's us, right? We are the counterpoint, and that is also, I think, how the living world would approach this, right? It's not, the living world doesn't operate from a top-down perspective. It is constantly solving for its challenges and its needs and context. And that means it's happening everywhere. So yeah, I also think, there are the persuadables out there, but the bigger opportunity to me is to focus on the majority who understand this is an issue. They're worried about it. They want to see action. 89% of people around the world want to see more climate action from their governments, right? That's amazing, right? We've actually done a really good job of waking people up. We just haven't done a very good job of helping them know what to do and how to be in that awakeness. So I think that's just such an opportunity. I wouldn't worry about, Joe down the street who's like, you know, um, uh, it's they're aging out happily. They're aging out.
yeah, that, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna leave that one alone. I'm
Yeah,
right there
like
with you
pick
though. I'm
pick
right
pick
there.
your battles, or sometimes maybe just don't battle,
Just walk away or run, whichever's
Mm.
easiest. Whichever.
Yeah, or find ways that you can reach common ground, right? This is something that I think is so fascinating in more purple or conservative parts of the country where people who would call themselves conservative, would call themselves Republican,
Mhm.
are like, you know what freedom looks like? Making your own electricity on your roof. That's freedom,
Yeah.
right? They don't have to get solar panels because they care about the climate. They can get them deeply rooted in the values that they already hold. It's hard to change people's values, but
Mhm.
we might be able to find spaces of congruence, right, around solutions and around action that, um, yeah, we can get excited about for different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I definitely have to, yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. It happens in steps, you know? It's
yeah.
not just gonna be that one-off conversation while you're standing in line.
Especially if you don't know the person,
Yeah,
right? Like if you think about
yeah,
it, like how many
like
people that you don't know and you don't trust have ever changed your mind,
exactly.
right? It's a little tricky.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely is.
It's a little tricky.
It definitely
But you
is.
know, with people we do know, we do trust, like, yeah, I think openings are possible, particularly when you come with more generosity than finger wagging. Not that I've ever done that.
So I'm gonna close it out here.
Mm,
Close it out here with pretty weighty question.
okay.
Now you've been doing this work for years, Catherine,
Mm,
right? And after speaking of these conversations, the one-off conversations, more in-depth conversations,
mm,
and you've had hundreds of them with climate leaders.
mm,
What kind of hope feels honest to you right now?
mm,
What kind no longer does?
mm. Hope is a slippery beast, isn't it?
Mm, wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I find myself orienting often to the idea of possibility
Mhm.
because that feels like something I can kind of wrap my imagination around. I can wrap my arms around. And possibility is bubbling into reality constantly,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
We are so much more attuned to the stories of harm and the bad that is happening, but we're seeing so much forward momentum that is easy to overlook. And I think part of tending my own sense of possibility is not turning away from the truth of what is hard that is happening, but it is also steering my attention with intention towards where possibility is being born and where it is taking root and where it is growing. That feels real to me because you can see it, you can feel it. The people who are showing up for that work day in and day out, if anything is my source of hope, it is that. It is that.
Mhm. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, we could talk for another 2 hours, 3 hours here.
I have a feeling we really could.
This has just been such an enlightening conversation. Again, folks, that was the voice of Dr. Katharine Wilkinson, and she is the author of the forthcoming books out on the 5th of May, entitled Climate Wayfinding, Healing Ourselves and the Planet We Call Home. And wow, writer, teacher, creator, my goodness. The New York Times bestseller. She wrote most of it, Drawdown. We're all familiar with Drawdown. I've had some folks from Project Drawdown on the show numerous times over the last 6 years since I've been doing this climate reporting. And wow, to have the um the mama of Drawdown
Oh.
of the book. I mean, I, I couldn't believe it when this came across my desk. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, yes, absolutely. We're going to be talking to Katharine. Oh my gosh, cannot wait. So it's been an absolute honor. Just want to run through now, folks, all of the pertinent links will be in the show description page at kpfa.org for A Rude Awakening. You can go there and get all of this info. But I'm just run down these dates really, really quickly. April 19th, San Francisco at Manny's. That's at 2 p.m. The 20th, also in San Francisco, she's going to be at the Commonwealth Club. That's at 1:30 p.m. It's going to be in Santa Cruz, California. Vino by the Sea, April 22nd. April 23rd, back to San Francisco at the Melody at 3 p.m. And then at the Exploratorium in San Francisco on the 23rd. So, wow, some nice, small, intimate locations. And then there's also going to be these kind of big venues as well. So, I can't wait. I hope to see her. I think I might be able to see you at the Exploratorium. Maybe, I don't know. I will go out to Georgia.
Come on down.
Wait by a peach tree. Like, hey, what's going on? Dr. Wilkinson over here. All right, folks, you got to check it out. Wonderful, wonderful book, Climate Wayfinding. You need to find your way through this climate, these climate issues, this climate travesty, this crisis. I definitely recommend this book. It will definitely help you find your way. We got about 5 seconds. I'm going to give it to you, Dr. Katharine Wilkinson. Go ahead and close us out.
Sabrina, thank you so much for, just a really generative and joyous conversation. This was a pleasure.
Pleasure has been all mine. Thank you so much for being on A Rude Awakening. So, if you are so inclined, take the time to check out All We Can Save at allwecansave.earth, allwecansave.earth, where you will find nurturing programs and resources. And you can also check out Climate Wayfinding at climbingwayfinding.earth, where you can find training guides all centered around dealing with the climate crisis and eco-anxiety. Again, folks, all pertinent links will be on the show description page for A Rude Awakening at kpfa.org. And that does it for another edition of A Rude Awakening. I'm Sabrina Jacobs. A big thank you to my guest, Dr. Katharine Wilkinson, for taking the time. The music on today's show is Arv Indrickson with Keep in Existence 2. Kirsten is on the controls. I'll be back next week, same time, same place. Stay tuned for a rebroadcast of Democracy Now! Coming up next. And remember, good people, embrace each other as we embrace the mother of us all. Thank you for listening.
The audio waves are flooded. Way too many voices saying the exact same thing. It's noise. It's static. KPFA cuts through, shines through, dangerously independent, vigilant as always. Dial in to KPFA, a fresh signal in a world of static.
Every Friday, KPFA brings you what corporate media won't. Project Censored exposes the stories buried behind the profit-driven newsroom. The truth they'd rather you never question. An economic update breaks down how power and money really works, who benefits, who pays, and how we fight back. 2 shows, 1 mission. Independent journalism that keeps you informed and unafraid. KPFA, truth that empowers. Voices you won't hear anywhere else.
So someone in 1949 was like, yeah, here's the idea. We'll build a radio station, broadcast actual truth, invite activists, artists, and thinkers to speak freely, and the public will just chip in to keep it going. Oh, and no commercials. Ever. Seriously, that was the plan. Fast forward more than 75 years later. Yup, we're still here. Still powered by listeners. Still not for sale. KPFA. A fresh signal in a dial full of static.
If following the corporate media narratives is cool, then we've been outcasts since 1949. This is 94.1 KPFA and 89.3 KPFB in Berkeley, 88.1 KFCF in Fresno, and online everywhere at kpfa.org.